Hello, and welcome to the stream. I'm Cody Krez, and I'm going to be casting the championship match in our More Wolfpack tournament between David Mikalova and Peter St. John, aka SadCryBear. And super excited you guys are going to be watching this with me. We will have access to their hands, and yeah, the tournament format has been best of three adaptive. So you play your deck against your opponent's deck, and then you swap decks, and you play your opponent's deck against your deck, where you're playing your opponent's deck for the second game. And then, if it's tied 1-1 after that, you bid chains for the opponent's, or you bid chains for the deck that won both games. And based on what we've been seeing, 6 to 8 chains is usually about what the winning deck ends up being bid, or at least that's the cost it goes for. Haven't played against either of these opponents. That's not true. I lost to David. So his deck was pretty strong, and it beat my deck with 7 chains. But I was also playing a pretty bad deck, so I would expect these to be a little tighter, but we'll see. Both of these players are very strong players, and yeah, I think they're just reviewing the lists right now. I'm waiting for them to go ahead and make themselves available. Looks like the game is kicking off here, so we'll swap into the game. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Looks like David has ended up going first. They're reviewing the decks now. And of course, I can see one of the decks and not the other. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we can't pull up the 2 deck lists here. Take a peek in this Discord. What should I do here? Link, paste, switch. There we go. So here's the deck Peter is playing. He's got double binding irons, 2 Eteromes, a Harbinger of Doom to clear the board. He's got Infernus, Purge, and Bornit. Triple Eddy, that's just brutal. Definitely we'll be looking to see. Looks like Peter's typical style of play where he wants to, control what the opponent's doing, really punish them for misplays. Some interesting cards here. In Starlines 2, he's got a board clear with Red Alert. He's got Detective World Pulpate to kind of control artifacts. We'll take a quick peek at David's deck as well. And here's his deck. He's got a Mobius Scroll. He's got an Eddy of his own. They both are sitting on multiple Cutthroat Researches, which is kind of interesting. See how that ends up mattering in this game. Probably will matter more for Peter than David because of Peter's multiple Eddies, but you never know. Pretty strong Saurian House here for David, and he is playing Worlds Collide Untamed, which is certainly unpopular. Gonna switch over back into the game. It looks like they're back and ready to party. David's going first. He's drawn a lot of Untamed cards. Tough hand to mulligan for sure. I especially like it because it's got a bunch of removal in terms of Quicksand. It's got Nature's Call, the ability to play that Mustic Murmuk multiple times to kill things if you want. He's going to mulligan it anyway. A little surprised by that. And it looks like Peter has declined to mulligan, sitting on his 3 discards. Also got 2 Logos and a Book of IQ, which is a strong artifact if you get lucky or make good decisions with it. David going first. He is going to pick Saurian for his house, and he's gonna lead off with Centurion Stenopius, who gets bonus power for each amber played on it. play a fight Reap, you can exalt him, which synergizes with his power there, but obviously risks giving the amber you exalt him with to the opponent upon his death. He does have double Ludo in his deck, which is one way to get around that amber punishment. SadCryBear here going to open with Dis, just get playing some cards, plays out Eterome, Spectre, and Boar Knit. Pretty strong opening play, allows him to keep playing Dis here if he wants. Boar Knit is going to let him purge out critical cards to things David's going to want to do potentially, as well as Reaping for 3 amber is good. The only problem here is the Eterome would significantly limit his ability to play Dis, but David is going to choose Saurian again and stomp that right off the face of the earth. David has also found Ludo, so he feels a little more empowered to play out some exalts onto his Centurion Snopius, who he uses to fight off the Bornet, protecting the cards in his deck from removal by purging via Bornet. David does go ahead and choose to exalt the Centurion Snopius. David's slightly ahead on the board here, but after that draw, he is out of Saurian cards in his hand, so he'll probably be looking to change houses on the next turn. Possibly into this Untamed. Use Mimicry. No, Mimicry targets you get, then discard pile. There won't be after this turn either, so maybe going to lean more towards Logos after this. SadCryBear going to call Logos, play out a mini group Think Tank that does not trigger its effect. The creature has to share a house with both of its neighbors. Follows that up with Eddie and Babbling Bibliophile. And that establishes him a fairly strong Logos board. I missed what card he archived with Eddie. I apologize for that. I guess it was probably that discard that was in his hand. I don't recall what it was. Anyway, he draws up his hand. He sees a hand flush with Star Alliance cards. David's going to go into Logos here, pop open Cutthroat Research, Sanitation Engineer, Positron Bolt, removing the Babbling Bibliophile, and good positioning by Peter to kind of play around the Positron Bolt. Don't know if he actively did that or not, but knowing Peter, he probably did. David's going to draw up. Peter's faced with the decision here. Does he want to get a couple amber from his Logos house, or is he just going to go straight into Star Alliance here? He is behind on amber, 3-0. He's going to go ahead and choose Star Alliance. He does have to choose whether he wants to play the Book of IEQ or the Techivore Pulpate, because Techivore Pulpate here, after a creature chooses an active house, destroy each artifact of that house. So he would probably end up killing his own Book of IEQ if he does play Techivore Pulpate. Stealth Mode is an all-star of a card. He does discard the Techivore Pulpate. Peter has played Stealth Mode, preventing David from using any action cards on his next turn, which, looking at David's hand, that's a little bit crushing to his soul, having the 4 action cards in hand. Peter's going to equip this Force Field onto the Eddie to be able to ward it every time it reaps. He plays out a couple of Star Alliance critters, the most notable of which is Navigator Alley, which is going to, in some cases, synergize with the Book of IEQ here. Let him look at the top card of his deck, then Book of IEQ. We'll see if David goes into Logos or Saurian expressly to deal with the Navigator Alley, because otherwise he's going to be throwing a lot of untamed cards away, or holding on to them for another turn, because he cannot play action cards this turn. If I'm David, I'm looking to get back on the board here. Unnatural Selection is going to be good in a turn, as is Nature's Call. But leaving some of this stuff on the board right this second is very frightening. He is going to move into Saurian. I would probably throw away the Failing Strike, and David agrees. Now he's got an... was it 3 power for it? So a 9 power Snopius. He's going to use that to remove the LE. And he's got a Ludo here. Could remove the Eddy if he chooses. But he also has Untamed cards to deal with that the next turn. Might have considered Reaping there. Hard to say. You obviously don't want to leave your opponent with a bunch of board to be able to really punish you. But getting Amber is the name of the game here. He's going to move into Star Alliance even with just the one creature on board and one card in hand. He does have Fight Reap, stun a creature on his Explo Rover, so he can remove the Ludo and stun maybe the Sanitation Engineer. He's got some choices to make, but Explo Rover does have Skirmish, which will allow him to damage and stun, which is exciting. And you know, why not take a shot with Book of IAQ? Discard pile is looking at having seen more than half of his Star Alliance cards, so odds are in his favor that he'll get to play out some more of these cards in his hand. The drawback is obviously if he whiffs, your turn immediately ends, you don't draw more cards, you don't ready your creatures. He reveals a Kirby, and there is exactly the risk I was talking about. His turn has ended brutally and quickly. Just posting on over to Facebook here to the rest of the more Wolfpack, let them know. SadCryBear says miss. Final. Alright, David is going to Nature's Call all of Peter's creatures back into his hand. And he can use the Untamed actions at this point. He also has Mimicry, which can hit Stealth Mode, which is super exciting, given how full Peter's hand is. Although he does notice 3 of the cards in his hand are creatures. David has a second Mimicry in his deck as well, which is super fun. Mimicry is a very powerful Untamed action card. Lets you play an action card from your opponent's discard pile effectively. David's going to deploy his Deepwood Druid to the middle of his battle line, healing up the Stenopius. And yeah, Mimicry's out that stealth mode. Gonna hold on to the natural selection probably, but he is ahead on board, so I wouldn't have been super sad about throwing that away. But I believe that's his main board clear, so he has decided it's worth the chain to hold on to. Welcome to the stream. Looks like we got a couple viewers on here. This is the first game of our finals between the More Wolfpack Tournament Championship Finals. It's adaptive, best of 3. On the bottom of your screen, you've got David. At the top, you've got Peter. Peter's going to lean into Dis here. He does have a Rock Grub to bump an Amber away from David, as well as Harvest Time, which I'm not super familiar with. Play, choose a trait, purge each card with that trait, presumably from play. Each player gains 1 Amber for each card they control that was purged this way. We'll see. He probably doesn't want to give David Amber by removing his creatures. He could consider hitting maybe the Deepwood Druid. I guess killing this Stenopius here is really strong. No Ludo on the board. Choose a trait. Purge this dinosaur. Alright, Peter content to rest on his laurels for now. He's going to go ahead and end his turn, holding on to the Harvest Time, draws up a bunch of Logos cards there. Did he draw? He might. Yeah, he must have drawn at least one. David's going to move into Saurian here. Plays a Theros Centurion, capturing one and a Chant of Hubris, which lets him move around, move one amber from a creature to another creature. So usually you capture one from your opponent or exalt one of your own creatures, put it on your opponent's. It's kind of like a really slow steal, not unlike Mind Warper or something in Mars. He's going to reduce his Stenopius' power, put an amber on the Rock Grub, and we'll see what he chooses to do. Byram might be looking to fight down that Dendrix with Stenopius. Protect his Shrix. Especially if he doesn't do it, Peter's going to be licking his lips, excited to take back a bunch of amber in his next turn by reaping for 3 with his, as many as 3 with his disc creatures here. And getting that Harvest Time off on all the dinos. David might have misclicked here. Yeah, he wanted to exalt his Strix on play. I think looking at the board, especially if he fights the Dendrix, it feels like a pretty safe play. Yep, he has agreed with me. He's going to go ahead and fight that into Dendrix. Take away Peter's hand control there. End of that turn. We're going into turn 6 here. Still haven't had a key forged. I know David's deck has gone pretty fast in previous matches in this tournament. Peter's does seem like it's designed to gum up the wheels quite a bit, though. See what Peter chooses to do here. He doesn't have any groupthink tank targets. Positron Bolt not going to remove anything as it stands. Looks like he is happy to go into Logos and play out some cards. Fires his Positron Bolt at that side of the battle line. Which I suppose makes sense, especially if you're planning on purging all these dinos at some point. Groupthink Tank gonna whiff on its effect. Cutthroat Research, not expected to steal anything. I wonder if he's going to archive. We'll see what he archives. Looks like it is going to be that Cutthroat Research. He's expecting some big bursts of amber generation at some point here. Or maybe the steal of the steal of retribution. Anyway. Going down a very long path that I've decided isn't worth elaborating upon. Back to David here. He is slightly ahead on board. The longer he stays ahead on board, the longer he's probably sad to be holding that in unnatural selection. But obviously we'll have to wait and see what value he gets out of it later. Looks like Shrix is going to fight down the Rock Grub, earning the amber back off of it. Remember, fighting does not let him exalt the Shrix. Only reaping or playing. Theros Centurion. Looks like it's going to fight as well. Take out the Eddy. Comes Odoak, who is a constant thorn in the sides of Coda players. Many Coda players relying upon that strong Shadows, Steely, Amber Generation type deck full of small dudes that want to just steal all your amber all the time. Small dudes in actions. Otowak turns off stealing as long as he's captured one of your amber. And so, turns out that's pretty hard with shadows in particular to deal with. Also going to play out wards onto his Centurion and his Senator Shrix. Like I said, I'm a little surprised, especially given that he has this ward play, that he didn't choose to exalt the Senator Shrix and instead fight with this Xenopius. But maybe he has other plans. We'll see what it's looking like. He is going to fight down the groupthink tank and has a pretty commanding lead on the board. First check of the game, I believe, is declared by David here. At the end of turn 6. Sorry, at the end of David's turn 7. SadCryBear has that handful of disc stuff and would probably really like to get rid of a number of these dinosaurs. Isn't going to be able to influence key costs at this point. We'll see 13 cards in the draw pile. A fair number of them. Half of them are discs. So if he's... Is it half? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... No, that's a blatant lie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discards, 6, 7, 8. So 4 of them. It's a little fewer than a third. No, this... Yeah, not very many discards in the deck at all. I completely retract my previous statement. I think the Book of IEQ play is too risky to really want to... Well, but you could Kirby into Harvest Time. And I don't know if people have the make a joyous noise thing, but at least in Seattle here at 8 o'clock, people lean out their windows and scream. And so that's kind of what's going on right now. It was a little weird at first, but I'm used to it at this point. SadCryBear gonna go directly into Dis, fight the Inspector into Senator Shrix to remove the ward and purge David's Eddie. Oh man, of all the cards to purge, that one's pretty rude. And then he's gonna run out the Harvest Time and presumably choose Dinosaur, which will purge 4 of David's creatures, but give him 4 amber. She blows, does leave the warded Thero Centurion on the board, just popping its ward. Follows it up with Binding Irons to chain David a little bit, and plays out a Harbinger of Doom to finish cleaning up the board at some point in the future. Alrighty, back over to David. He does forge the yellow key here, sitting with 3 chains and 5 amber. He is at full key ahead of Peter. And ahead on board. David's going to choose logos, plays his information exchange to steal the 1 amber. Remember, none of the Peter's amber was stolen, it was just taken off creatures last turn. And with that amber, also going to unstun Sanitation Engineer, and that puts him in check again. So Peter's going to have to start moving quickly here to kind of catch up if he's going to make a recovery in this game. He doesn't have any answers for that key in hand, it doesn't look like. I don't recall. His archives is, I believe, another Dendrix. So that also doesn't help with the key. So probably at this point, just looking to take back the board a bit. Playing that red alert. and jamming a bunch of Star Alliance creatures, and that looks like Peter's arrived at the same decision I did. Obviously a little risky with the Harbinger on board, so he probably has to taunt up the Harbinger with the Lieutenant Karkar. And then put the Kirby on the other side of the Karkar and explore over out in no man's land, but we'll see. David's next turn looking like he's going to play Untamed. Look at his discard pile. Could pull back a Deepwood Druid to just have a board of 3, including actually interesting. It looks like where did Explore Over just get played on yeah, he attached to Harbinger of Doom. I'm guessing he might even be playing around the unnatural selection at this point. Not wanting to get his Harbinger of Doom unnatural selected and then have that clear the board, leaving David with a big opening on the board. I guess the other the other thought, maybe it wasn't playing around that so much as just wanting to kill that Theros Centurion and get the check as quickly as possible because he is pretty far behind. Board solidly in Peter's hands now, but he finds himself 2 keys behind. David likely looking at chains for the rest of this match. But when you're playing 4 cards of the same house a turn and you have Mobius Scroll to kind of clean up unwanted cards when you're playing house logos, I think it's not going to affect him too badly. David forges the blue key, taking his time thinking about it. I guess he does have the option of playing the Hapsis, archiving a couple Untamed cards, and just draw as many cards as possible and hope that later can have a big swing turn with Unnatural Selection to finish out the game. Remember, he does not have a key cheat here in Untamed. Looks like he is going to take the Untamed line here. Plays Quicksand, which will kill, I believe, the biggest? Yeah, the most powerful creature. Not. Can't talk, it's okay. Anyway, also runs out of Tantalin, plays Regrowth. Again, here's the discard pile. I think I would be looking to pull back. Does he have Tribute? Probably pull back a Ludo at this point and be hoping to use like some kind of degenerate Tribute play, seeing as that hasn't come out of his deck. Other options, Sanitation Engineer is a good tool for dealing with the chains that he has at this point, because he knows he has a Hapsis in hand. How many Untamed cards does he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I'm reading that correctly, almost half his deck is Untamed cards at this point, so maybe his thought process is he's going to be drawing a lot of Untamed, so he's going to try to generate an advantage that way, draw a lot of Untamed, keep playing with those Untamed creatures. I don't know. I think I might have leaned more on the play more Logos cards and use the Mobius Scroll to kind of clean up his game that way, but be interesting to see how it plays out. He's got a lot of wiggle room here. He is a key and 2 amber ahead. SadCryBear does not have Taunt anymore on his side. He is going to run into Star Alliance here, play a Kincan. And he's got a pretty decent zap here. Just 3? I was thinking it counted artifacts as well, but that doesn't super matter. He'll play Kirby, which will let him play 1 non-Star Alliance artifact upgrade or action card this turn. And it'll probably be the Cutthroat Research. Oh, is that the other card in this archive? I've been saying the Dendrix for a while, but it actually might have been Cutthroat Research a while back. Gonna zap, he's gonna remove the Deepwood Druid from David's side of the board and play out Book of IQ's revealed daughter. I think that was a slight misplay by Peter there. I think he could have played one of these two Logos cards first and then Book of IQ'd just to be safe. Something to think about when you're playing the odds and stuff like that. Didn't end up mattering here. He's going to get to play out all of his Logos cards that he wants to, including an Eddie that's going to probably stick the board this turn unless Unnatural Selection gets played here. And honestly, if I'm David, Unnatural Selection is looking pretty tasty here. You can Reap with that Tanted Lin and Unnatural Select to clear the board. Other options. Oh boy, I guess playing Mustek Murmuk on an empty board isn't super fun. He would have to kill himself. So let's run back that suggestion. Look more at the Logos. Yeah, I think retrospect maybe Logos is the play here. Oh, Tanted Lin is gonna discard the Cutthroat Research from the archive, which means he missed the other thing that Eddie put in there, which was Information Exchange. Yeah. So Information Exchange is still in the archive. He is going to Unnatural Selection to clear the board. Let's see if he has the same realization I did about this Mustek Murmuk. Might even end up discarding that. I wouldn't. Nah, she blows. Alright, back over to Peter. The board's clear. David's sitting at 3 amber. Pretty full discard pile. This is a pretty exciting time to earn an Infernus if you're Peter. And it gets you just 4 disc creatures on the board. Mobius Scroll would be funny, though. You're looking at a Daughter Mobius Scroll, which I actually quite like. And it looks like the play Peter's decided on, too. He's going to remote access this Mobius Scroll, archiving it and 2 of his discards. Probably Bloodshard Netherrealm. Yeah, he's come to the same thought that I did. Those cards are a little unwieldy in the current situation, just because he needs to be able to reap to catch up, and he wants. If he plays out all the disc creatures, then he's got to be killing his own disc creatures with the Etherealm, so he's going to put those away. Maybe they'll synergize with Eddie someday. One Eddie in the bin, other in his deck currently. David's going to move into Untamed, plays out an Eldest Bear. Will he follow with his Tantadin or throw it away? I would 100% play the Tantadin here. David agrees. Worst case scenario, can always just Code Monkey these away for some Amber next turn. That is how David chooses to leave it. Back over to Peter. He had drawn extra cards because of Daughter. He's got pretty lame Sweet in Logos there. Force Field and Navigator Ali, which he can Book of IQ, so he sees that and almost immediately it's going to go ahead and play out Ali and Force Field. use Book of IQ, and I guess hope that there's not 3 Star Alliance cards on top of his deck, which would be, well, I guess then he just wouldn't IEQ. Let's go look at him. Unfortunately, with the Crucible, we can't see what he's looking at, but I assume if it's all Star Alliance cards, we just won't see this artifact tap. Maybe some disgruntled murmurs from the chat. We'll see. Peter will play the force field. Looks like he's gonna play the IEQ. Reveals Eddie. Does it? What does it do with it? It just reveals it. So, knowing that he's got Eddie coming, I'll be interested to see if he chooses to daughter into Eldest Bear, and then Anomaly Exploiter to kill the Eldest Bear. I understand. That makes sense. Plays a group Think Tank, so this way his Ali is protected until next turn. Gets up to 6 for the check. We might have a comeback on our hands, folks. He's still got a bunch of Amber control in both Logos and Dis in hand, he being Peter. David's looking at ways to try to gas out. He did not, unfortunately, have his Eldest Bear survive for the Code Monkey. And now he's got to start making this decision about, does he... He doesn't have removal for the Tantedlin. He's got to think about, is he trying to remove cards from SadCryBear's archives and start weakening this Ali? But that's a pretty weak Untamed play, just playing the 1 card and 1 fight. He also can get an Amber and play 2 creatures and logos, but now that jams Tantedlin into his archives, he's going to pop his archives. What just happened? Why did the Mobius Scroll come back? I understand, because when Peter used Mobius Scroll, it archives into David's archives. Forgot how that works. That's my fault. Oops, sorry. Let me shrink this a little bit. I know it makes it a little hard to see, but this way we can see that there's the force field here on the Ali. He's going to play the Code Monkey, archiving the Tantedlin, and followed up with a Hapsis here. Trying to catch up on board. Yeah, again, he only made 1 Amber that turn. It's starting to look like it's going to be swinging towards Peter's favor. Let's see, if I'm Peter here and I'm thinking about purging cards in David's discard pile, Nature's Call is one I'm strongly considering making him lose. Information Exchange or cards like that that are gonna, maybe even Mimicry are cards you might have to consider purging with Infernus to reduce David's options on this next time through his deck, while you're trying to claw your way back all the way through this game. But you're weighing that against the payoff of purging cards with Amber Pips on them, which will cause your opponent to lose Amber right now, which is a pretty big deal, especially in this game where Peter's had trouble keeping creatures on the board. Peter's going to move into Star Alliance, use this Ali IEQ combo again, rearranges some cards, and you can pop this Karkar over the top of his Ali now. That boy is looking pretty sturdy. Gonna IEQ, shows off that Positron Bolt, and now with the taunt Karkar, he can put Eddie on the far side of that. Eddie will be under taunt. Probably I would archive the Inspector. I think that's the one I'm least excited to have in my hand, because Dendrix represents a threat on the board, and these two both control Amber. And these are, you aren't really going to want to take back your archives this game. Nothing in there is particularly good, and the synergy with Eddie, you gotta leave cards in your archives until like times are so dire. Looks like Peter has disagreed with me, and he's maybe valuing the disruption that Imposter represents. I don't know if I agree, but we'll see how it plays out. I feel like Dendrix is just a bigger body that offers a similar amount of disruption. David's going to move into Logos here. He does have he can fight the mini group tank if he wants to ward the Hapsis up. He also has the option of reaping and just trying to edge his way to that final key. Look at this, Quantum Figure Trap. Going to use that to swap around, presumably Eddie and the group tank. That way he can use Hapsis to kill Eddie instead, which is a way better play than I initially said. He also gets to archive some cards with Mobius Scroll this turn if he chooses to, which I assume he will, to keep drawing more and more cards and dig through 4 answers and more Amber generation to try to close out the game. Looks like David's having to take his time thinking about this one, and we're pretty far into our time. This is a 2-hour best of 3 match, and we're 45 minutes in almost, so I take it back, almost 40 minutes in. But yeah, certainly not a quick one. Alright, he's gonna swap the groupthink tank and Karkar, which gives SadCryBear a protected spot on his battle line, but does leave more of the currently showing creatures available to kill. Use that Mobius Scroll to archive cards in his hand. He has left Rustnar and Legatus Raptor. Finally, here comes that fight with the Hapsis. He takes out Eddie, removing a chunk of Peter's Amber control, but there is another Eddie in his hand, just raring to go. Anomaly Exploiter will be able to remove Groupthink Tank next turn. It pulls a Twin Bolt Emission off the top of his deck with that fight with Hapsis. He can use that to pop the ward and deal 2 damage to Karkar. Yeah, I don't recall how much Peter knows about the top of his deck, if he is going to lean into this Ali Karkar IQ play, or if he'll just go ahead and straight play something else. He doesn't have to get David off a check right now, so it looks like he's going to just keep being greedy and play Star Alliance and something else as long as he can. And David's next turn, looking here like it'll have to be a Logos turn, unless he's got a remote access. Remote access with Mimicry could be pretty funny. That's really the only meaningful action card in Peter's discard pile at this point. IQ is going to show off a Bornit, so SadCryBear gets to move into Dis and play a Rock Grub in the Infernus. There's no discard for David, so now Peter's got to look at his own discard, and if he can remember the deck list, he might purge that remote access, and there it goes. No fun allowed for David. Takes away 2 Amber with purging of Cutthroat Research and remote access, and now Peter finds himself in a somewhat commanding lead here. He's still got a big 1-turn key denial with his logo suite. He's got plenty of Amber generation and action card blocking in Star Alliance. David's on the ropes here. He doesn't have a way to get to check this turn. He's got no good targets in Peter's discard to pile for Mimicry. And I think that's going to be it. I think game 1 is going to go to Peter here. It might take another... I'll be surprised if it takes more than just next turn, honestly. Purging the three dinos and Eddie in one swoop was pretty rude. Or Eddie wasn't in the same swoop. The purged Eddie, where did that come from? Was it Bornit? Oh right, it was the randomly purged card from Inspector. Oof. Peter says, nice, simple, low thought one for our first game. Which, given the time limit, clearly not. Be exciting to see this one go to chains if it does. Certainly a bit of luck involved here for Peter, but I don't know that I saw anything that was, game decidingly lucky. Obviously, the purged Eddie hurts, but a 1 Amber key cost increase pretty much anywhere in the game here, I think, is still gonna end up with Peter having won this. Other decisions we could look back and think about. Holding the natural selection for a long time ended up still being a little awkward when he did use it. But I can't think of very, maybe non-standard plays. I guess we can ask Peter about holding off on harvest time. Is he looking for a specific target? Dave is going to move into Logos here. Use Anomaly Exploiter to destroy Lieutenant Karkar. Play Cutthroat Research for the Amber. Plays a Sanitation Engineer. And Hapsis is going to fight the Infernus, rewarding Hapsis, drawing a card. Looks like it might have pulled that Positron Bolt, which you can use to thwack the Inspector and the Rock Grub, which is actually pretty good. I wish there was a better way to display. Maybe I can hide my taskbar. Just wish I had more vertical space on this screen. Because the other option is there a way to... I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it right now. These are things that I certainly don't need to think about right this second. Positron Bolt is going to shoot Mini Group Think Tank Navigator Ali and Rock Grub, pop on the board. Quantum Finger Trap is going to switch around some dudes. 4 Amber for David, 3 for Peter. Peter still has Ali IEQ on the board with Stealth Mode. Ali Stealth Mode is 2 Amber to 5, and if he hits Logos, that gives him 6 Amber. And the game, I believe... Yeah. So... see if Peter finds exactly that. Reefs the Lee, wards Lee, looks at the top 3 cards, looks for a Logos card. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh. Alright, well, 1 and 7 choose 3 to find a Logos card. He's going to play the Stealth Mode this turn. Which he has to do because in Logos, David can remove the Ali next turn. Did not find a Logos card. I forgot there was creatures. He can use those creatures to reap. And in doing so, has enabled himself to get the check. And as we previously mentioned, David does not have a way to stop Peter from ending this game. Once Peter has reached check, Harvest Time has been played. Is Peter going to rush more Amber with that? Yes, he is. He chooses the Demon trait, purges his 4 Knit, goes to 7 Amber, and says, what you gonna do? And I think that's all she wrote. David is evaluating his options. Don't think he's going to find the droids he's looking for. Oh, I should ask David about the regrowth he did game 1, because I definitely wasn't sold on his choice there. He's going to play Logos and try to dig. Information exchange is not enough. Eddie's purged. Eddie would have been an out. That's all the cards David's going to draw. And that's it. Game 1 goes to Peter. I'm going to take a real quick break to grab some water. I will be right back. Alrighty, I'm back. Still waiting on the guys to set up the next game, but we can talk about that first game a bit. Fun comeback by Peter. It'll definitely be interesting. The first thing I'm thinking about already is what kind of chains do you want to bid if this does go to game 3 on Peter's deck. And it has a number of answers, and it takes a decent amount of time to build up its stuff. And yeah, it was a very tight game, so I don't know that you're gonna want to pay many more than like 4 or 5 chains for that deck in this matchup. Game is up. I am in. Let's go ahead and toss into the game here. Do you have the correct starting player? They might also be going with just whatever the Crucible says for starting player. So yeah, it looks like they're happy with it. They're going to go ahead and play it out. Game 2, ready, fight. Turn 1 going to be Peter's. Looks like Peter's going to keep his starting hand, play out that Eldest Bear right in the middle, squarely in the middle of the battle line, and it's going to be hard for David to remove that. If I'm David here, I'm looking to play probably just those 2 disc creatures, but Eldest Bear is going to get to fight the board knit for basically free. So given that, maybe well, that looks like actually what David's going to do is says, hey, I'm not going to let you fight with that bear. He plays Logos, jams the Cutthroat, researches an Anomaly Exploiter, goes digging for more answers. And looks like he might have found kind of what he was looking for here. Now he's got a pretty stout Star Alliance hand. Going to be able to contest at least some of what Peter looks to do here. Although David can't see it, but Peter's next hand in Untamed will be to Mustek Murmuk, the Karkar, and finish it off with the Eldest Bear, using Assault before Hazardous and still gaining 3 to 2. Peter going to go into Logos, drop an Eddie and a Hapsis. Will he play this Twin Bolt mission? I missed what he archived because I was thinking about a separate thing. I apologize for that. Looks like he's going to choose to just sit on the Twin Bolt mission. Like I said, I kind of fully expect David to play this Star Alliance handout, and there it goes. Karkar, I would put Kirby and leave Pulpate out to the side. David doesn't look like he agrees with me. And now it's up to Peter. Peter could even call Star Alliance again right here to kill the Anomaly Exploiter. Sorry, not Star Alliance. He could call Logos to kill the Anomaly Exploiter if he wanted to. I don't think that's the play here. It leaves some frustrating stuff on the board. fully expect to see that Untamed play I was talking about earlier. He does have the option of playing Stomp and Theros Centurion, but I like playing stuff when you can, play stuff you already out on the board. Use your creatures, get the value out of them. Looks like Peter agrees. He's gonna presumably play Rustnar to one flank, Mustek Murmuk to the other, shoot the Karkar, fight with the bear, make out like a bandit. Yep, as expected. So back to David. David did stick 2 creatures on the board, but already Peter's board looking a little scary.
Mhm.
Alrighty, back over to David here. He hasn't decided yet, but I'm pretty sure. I guess he's considering, does he run the Tekavor Pulpate into the Eldest Bear to just remove that threat from the board? Then he could Kirby to play, say, Binding Irons, as well as get the Book of IQ out. And it actually looks like that's going to be the play from David. So, bye-bye, little Sebastian. And also going to see a Kirby into Binding Irons and Book of IQ here. I would be, well, Kirby could fight. He is going to reap with him. Three chains for Peter on a 2/2/2 hand is potentially sad. We'll see what ends up happening here. Didn't play the Book of IQ because Rustnar is on the board. I understand. Didn't think about that, but ultimately I think I agree with that play from David. I think the Book of IQ too valuable to just discard. We saw it exploited to great use in the last match, in the last game of this match. And now Peter has a bounty of options here. Logo's a little unfortunate. The Twin Bolt mission would have to shoot one of his own creatures if he chooses to play it. Hasn't played Saurian yet. If I'm him, I'm probably looking to just play Untamed here, regrowth this Eldest Bear, play it on the flank, and a Deepwood Druid outside of it, and start trying to work that bear towards the center of the battle line. Looks like Peter agrees with me. He's gonna run Kirby off the board with his Rustnar, chomp down on that Anomaly Exploiter, regrowth Eldest Bear, and let's see. He could Deepwood Druid to heal the Rustnar if he was worried about having removal for the Book of IQ. That looks like it's his thoughts exactly. This is kind of a big read on Peter's part. He says, hey, I don't need that bear in the middle of my battle line. Artifact control, name of the game here. Yeah, there's also the Switchy Do artifact. No, that was in David's deck. Yeah, I think he's just decided that the IEQ Ali combo is too much to deal with, and he's going to go ahead and remove that from at least this first round through the deck, if he can. Make a quick note about that. Yes, Peter. Game 2. David's just going to play out the 4 disc dudes in his hand. Looks like Eterome is going to be able to take out an Untamed critter next turn if he so chooses. Not a tough choice there. I think Peter now looking, he's got a suite of Logos cards he could play, and that's probably what he'll do. He also does have this Untamed option. Lets him fight back on board a bit, or just reap 4 times, which honestly isn't the end of the world, but would be pretty sad here, given David's hand, but Peter doesn't necessarily know that. Peter's going to choose Logos here. I think the Positron Bolt on the left flank there might just be too tasty to ignore. Make sure ordering is correct so that the card that gets purged is least likely to be the one you want to save. Other than that, a little bit of luck of the draw here for him. And Hapsis the Bornet off the board. I see. And Positron Bolt that way. That way he can... I don't know. Yeah, removing that Arome is pretty worth. I think he could have just fought that with Hapsis. Twin bolted the other way, and then there's one fewer guy on David's board, but it looks like he didn't want to remove the Imp Spectre. Was worried about purging something that was in his hand on his own turn. So instead, we've got this situation. SadCryBear there with 7 Amber, calls the first check of the game. Draws into a few dinos, also has Cutthroat Research and Nature's Call available. Also has put himself exactly to 7 Amber, which, because he didn't steal any, makes it so David isn't going to be able to get him off of check, aside from with this Infernus, which could hit any of the cards in SadCryBear's discard pile. Or target his own. Nothing in there, not enough to take off check. Looks like he is going to go Logos, remote access to swap a couple things with the Finger Trap. Looks like he might be setting up a play for the mini group think tank there by moving the Rusnar yonder. Peter reminds us the clock is plus 60 minutes for the entire match, so there are 64 minutes left in our entire match. So we might end up with a game 3 going to time situation, which would be a major bummer. Time rules in Keyforge are not my favorite. But with just me chatting about it, I don't think I'm going to want to go. I don't know. It's something that definitely could use both sides of the argument represented. And by the time I'm done whining about it, this game might be over. So, remote access, quantum finger trap, cutthroat research, and information exchange takes SadCryBear to 6, which actually is enough to get him off a check because of Mustang Murbuck. I forgot about that. Apologize about that. Play comes back to David here. He's got a pretty solid disc turn he could look to do, or he could play out 3 cards in Star Alliance, but then yeah, he would call check, but not do much more. Actions on Peter though. He's gonna go back into Untamed and play Deepwood or Reap with his pals. Use Nature's Call, and oh my gosh, he's gonna be able to Nature's Call, rearrange his battle line, and get Eldest Bear back in the middle. Get to use that fight effect to remove the Dendrix and gain the Amber. He also knows Information Exchange and both Cutthroat Research not in the picture here for David, and that's a huge oof. Not a lot of other Amber control options for David available at this point. So Peter's gonna just get as much Amber as he can. drops down a Mustek Murmuk, and the Rustnar shoots down the Inspector. Inspector purges Otawak, which again, not going to make a huge difference at this point because most of the Steely cards are out of David's deck. And then Deepwood Druid is going to get deployed here to heal up the Hapsis. I think there's a small argument to be made here for not having played the Mustek Murmuk. Just for the sake... Well, I guess he had to do it to do this play. Mustek Murmuk is going to increase the key cost to make SadCryBear pay at least one extra amber, maybe two for these next couple keys. But he's so far ahead. The board is solidly in Peter's hands. He's out of chains. That was his last chained draw for a while. The Binding Irons is in David's hand. David having to make the choice. Does he Harvest Time to try to get back the board a bit? Potentially calling Witch. Could also call Beast. And he's going to play Infernus. Definitely would hit Nature's Call and would probably choose... blah, 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 blah. I don't know what I'd choose the other one. He'd probably Slight Edge the Twin Bolt Emission just because it's a little more flexible. In fact, almost certainly that one. But, 3 damage is more than 2, which means you do have more creatures you can kill if you were to choose it. Looks like David has arrived at the same conclusion I have. Also, is going to play Harvest Time, chooses Beast, purges 3 of Peter's creatures. Looking a lot like the last game, where the deck Peter's playing gets out to a huge lead. We'll see if David can pilot Peter's deck well enough to bring it back. Rustnar also off the board, so Book of IQ, that combo going to be back in play here, and Ali hasn't been drawn yet. So those cards weren't drawn, out of sync, which is exciting for David. So he's not sunk yet. But I've seen closer games. Peter forges his red key, surveys his board. Probably gonna play Logos, and he definitely is gonna play Logos here. Gonna play out the Cutthroat Research and the Mobius Scroll, fight down the Infernus with Hapsis to draw an additional card. Looks like he's picked up a Ludo, which isn't gonna help him this turn, possibly next turn. Plays Mobius Scroll. I guess with a semi-powerful Logos hand here, or Logos board, he could consider holding the Cutthroat Research and be trying to guess that David is going to push to maybe 8 Amber next turn. Looks like he's not going to make that call, though. And just goes to 9 Amber. And is probably going to be playing Dinos next turn, unless the draw does something more like that. Yeah, now he's got a bit of a quandary. But he's ahead pretty far. So it's a bridge I'm sure he's willing to cross when he comes to it. Looking over David's hand here, he has 2 upgrades that are going to have to go on opponent's creatures if he plays the Star Alliance here. Otherwise, he's got a sad little Harbinger of Doom and Battling Bibliophile, neither of which are inspiring a great deal of confidence in him, I'm sure. From Star Alliance, Book of IEQ. Yeah, if I'm David, I would... You need this Amber. You got to start coming back. So I would probably be putting these upgrades on this Deepwood Druid, who because I think we've seen the most untamed stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But yeah, it's hard to say. There's Zap. Doesn't remove the ward from Hapsis even. Just 2 creatures in play. Guess I'm not sure about that one. Let me Mark that down, David. Zap, no. Board pop, no kill. Yeah, we might ask him about that after the game, although I don't think that's going to end up being a consequential play. We could be wrong about that. David is starting to find some of the control package of his deck now, though. He's got all 3 Eddies. He's got Can, SadCryBear there. Already looking at 3 Amber. I wonder if that was the play around Code Monkey. If he didn't pop the ward to play around Code Monkey, that would be a pretty sick read on your own deck. Yeah, just mostly trying to figure out what Peter's looking at here. Peter doesn't have a way to archive 2 Logos creatures, so he might honestly just reap twice. He could Quantum Finger Trap his Hapsis and his Deepwood Druid. That way he can archive Eddie, and I've already decided that's a stupid thing to do. So we'll just pretend like I'm not talking nonsense. Really, the Mobius Scroll plus Eddie is sweet, because you can have Eddie already on the board, or play him onto the board, and then archive a bunch of extra stuff that maybe you weren't going to be able to archive to drive up key costs that way, which is cool. Reaps with Eddie, Reaps with Hapsis. The other thing you could consider here, he's just going to play the Code Monkey and archive the Eddie, which again, I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's not the end of the world. He'll still be able to end up with 4 cards in his archives with Eddie and Mobius Scroll. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm going to ask Peter about that one. Oh, wait, why did he get the Amber from Code Monkey? I thought the creature had to actually leave play for that to work. Oh, it doesn't. It's not contingent on them actually archiving. I see. And that's all she wrote. Looks like Peter is gonna come out of this with the 2-game sweep of our finals. I'm gonna go see if I can find them in Discord and chat with them. Yeah, they're right here. Let's go ahead and duck into chat and see what they're up to.
That was so that deck, if it gets too slow of a start, it will just fold at the beginning. And I think that I just had that big old pile of Untamed.
Yeah.
Because that deck's like heavily reliant on getting through its cards as fast as possible.
Yeah. I mean, mine is too.
Yeah, your
Katie, how's it
deck's
going?
really. If I called sorry in that game, I don't think I did.
No, you didn't.
Nope, never called sorry.
I mean, like, I'm sitting on a pile of them.
Yeah, well, good games, guys. It was fun to watch. Bummer for you, David, but congratulations, Peter. And I mean, second place, hard to complain about against competition as stiff as this. But
Hey, that's
yeah.
6 decks, and I only lost to Peter, so I'm proud of that.
There you go. How you feeling, Peter?
I feel good. That first game, man, that was that was a really tough game.
You clawed that back.
I had several times in that first game where I was booking, and like even with Ali, I had a chance of missing because if you hit 3-star alliance, I'm not going to lose the book. I just have to choose not to do it. And so there's a couple times where I was a little worried about that. That was a really tough game.
Yeah, and my only way out with that is Rock Grub, and didn't come in time.
Yeah, it was a couple of pretty crazy games. It's interesting. It sounds like you might be using just your speakers, David, and then it's like canceling Peter's voice for me, which is a little weird. But I think it's coming through well enough, so don't worry about it. But yeah, I had a couple of specific questions about each game, and so first, David, in the first game, I know you held unnatural selection for kind of a long time. Do you want to talk about kind of your thought process behind that and whether or not you were happy with how that played out?
Yeah, I should not have held it as long, but I did. And what did I even kill with that?
You did clear his board because you killed his Carpenter of Doom, and then you had the weird awkward play where you had to.
Oh, it's me. There we go. Uh-oh. There's really bad echo. Oh, Austin.
Yeah, Austin just jumped in, and he also had speakers on, so I muted him. I think the echo won't be as bad now, but it might still be for you guys.
Okay, so much better.
Cool.
Yeah, so I did hit his Harbinger, which is exactly what I wish I would have had a better opportunity for that. But yeah, it definitely slowed down a bit. It was kind of too late before I realized how much I had slowed down, and that was really disappointing because it's like with that deck, all I should do is go fast. I feel like if I even just would have reaped more instead of controlling his board, probably could have done it.
Yeah, I'm sure that felt like a crushing defeat when you were 2 keys ahead and ended up not quite being able to finish it out. Let me ask Peter real quick. You held off on Harvest Time for at least one turn, maybe two. Was there a specific creature you're waiting to hit, or were you just kind of waiting for a fat Saurian board to scoop Exalt stuff off? You're muted, Peter.
He put me in a really tricky spot with Harvest Time, where I had a couple of options with it. The first turn that I wanted to play it, he stealth moded me, so I couldn't Harvest Time on that turn. And then with the board that he had, it's a really critical card because if he exalts up with Ludos, it's too hard for me to kill the Ludos to get the Amber back.
Yeah.
And so I held on to it there. And then I had an awkward turn where I had to choose. It would have been a really bad dis turn, and I could have Kirby'd out the Harvest Time. But what I really wanted to try to do was like Kirby and Book to get some tricks in. And so I held onto the Harvest Time for one more turn, and then I played it at the spot where it would. I was going to lose if the Dino stayed around. It was just going to be over quickly.
I know
but
the feeling.
I want him to pile up too much because we are both playing decks with double Cutthroat Research, and David's got double Cutthroat Research and double Mimicry to my Cutthroat Researches, so I never want 8 Amber.
Right. Yeah, but super fun game 1, big comeback. Game 2 went a little more smoothly for Peter. My first question for Peter about game 2 was when you healed the Rustnar with the Deepwood Druid, were you thinking about Ally IEQ, or was that just you didn't want to have damaged creatures for some other reason, or?
Ally IEQ.
Yeah.
Rustnar is the only artifact destruction in the deck, and I felt like I was willing to give up the Eldest Bear placement there for like protection against Ollie Book, which I felt like if I'm ahead in the game, that's the comeback mechanism is Ollie Book and the like slow Eddie train just wearing you out.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, David, you had a play I was curious about. When you got that zap, it was kind of late in the game. I don't think it ended up mattering too much, but what was your kind of rationale between when you zapped the Deepwood Druid and the instead of popping the Hapsis Ward, you poked the Eddy?
Yeah. Oof, I didn't realize it was that bad. So several things going on. One, I misheard zap. I thought it would be like 2 damage to each creature.
I see.
So when I accidentally clicked Deepwood Druid. I'm like, oh, I should have just clicked Eddy twice. And then my screen also this game wasn't showing the like icons like Ember and houses, and also found out later the wards. So I didn't even realize Hapsis was warded.
Oh no, that's dumb.
Which is overall still better than the first game, where the lag was just really terrible with the interface. So yeah, that was just another misplay on top of a whole lot of not good happening.
Yeah, I guess that's a super bummer. Is there any other plays in particular you wanted to talk about, David? Any stuff you thought you did that was either pretty cool or that you maybe wanted to do differently?
Not in the second game. I really feel like I was screwed and put into a corner in every which way with my card draw. I regret mulliganing, not because of the hands, but because of just the order of the deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second game you did have a pretty your first hand. I was like, that's 6 untamed cards.
Yeah, it was, and but I was like, okay, how am I going to use them, and when am I going to use them now versus later?
Yeah.
And it was good Ember, but yeah, not it was pretty decent overall. I was also looking for a book. I just wanted a book quicker.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a big thing to mulligan for. Peter, in the last game, towards the end, you Mobius scrolled your stuff after archiving the Eddy, which let David forge your 6. Was that just like an effort to draw more cards, or was there some other thought process behind that?
Yeah, I couldn't go to check if I didn't give David the key, and so I want that. I would rather force the stops out of David's hand quickly than like let him like orchestrate situations. And so by using the Mobius scroll to dig deeper in deck, and then code monkeying the Eddy, I put myself at 7, which is a good number to be at.
Yep.
Against the deck. It means that he has to Eddy twice to stop me, or Infernus, which was gone already.
Mm-hmm.
So like functionally double Eddy becomes the only stop there, and so I was okay giving up the key to force out Eddies.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, I guess as our first, more Wolfpack champion, do you have any, words or maybe some kind of, taunt for the next tournament or something you'd like to leave us with?
The deck that I chose was super, super fun to play for me. It was exactly my style. And so I was really happy with my strategy for this tournament, which was play a deck I really, really like, but that also I think is really tough to play. I think it was really, really tough throughout the tournament for people to pick it up and play it. But the other thing I would say is that this was so much fun. I'm really excited for the next league, and I highly recommend anybody that watches this broadcast not in our league, if there is anybody, play Adaptive League. It's super fun.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. I think that's where I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for doing this interview, and thanks to Josh for orchestrating, and I think David had a big part in orchestrating as well. Everybody who did, thank you guys so much. I had an absolute blast.
Yeah, this was great. And congratulations, Peter.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you, Cody, for
Yeah. Yeah. Have a good one, guys. Yeah. Thanks again to everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. And yeah, it's been a blast. And hopefully we'll be bringing you some more content soon. Keep an eye out. We have a sealed league coming up. We play our Tuesday night Keyforges, and I tend to broadcast my Keyforge Online team event stuff as well. So there will be plenty more Keyforge content coming from this channel, and I'm posting a link in the chat right now. If you guys didn't catch the match I played last night against Austin, it was super fun. That adaptive one goes to the third game. Get to see some chain bidding and everything. So if you didn't catch it, highly recommend you check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.